Think about how much television has changed in the last 20 years. I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? We've gone from everyone gathering around the TV for one big show a week to this massive global universe of hits you can watch anytime, anywhere. So how did we get from a world where everyone watched Friends to a world where a show from South Korea can become the biggest thing on the planet overnight? Let's break down how TV got so huge and so complicated.
Okay, before we really dive in, I want you to think about something. What was the #1 TV show in the world the year you graduated from high school? Go ahead, take a second. Got it? Okay, hold on to that answer because the story of how much things have changed since then, well, that's the story of modern TV.
For a whole lot of you, I'm betting this was the answer. Back in 2004, Friends was wrapping up its legendary run. It was the absolute peak of what we used to call appointment television, a genuine shared cultural experience for an entire generation.
But let's jump forward to 2017. Suddenly, the biggest show in the world looked, well, completely different. Game of Thrones was no cozy sitcom. It was this gigantic, sprawling fantasy epic that completely took over the global conversation.
And right around that same time, another critical piece of the puzzle just clicks into place. A little show called Stranger Things shows up, not on a normal TV network, but on a streaming service. And that was the start of a massive seismic shift in how we watch TV and where we watch it.
And then 2021 happened. A South Korean drama that literally nobody saw coming became the most watched show on the entire planet. This journey, from Friends to Squid Game in less than 20 years, is what we're here to unpack. So how on earth did this happen?
Well, it all started right as that golden era of the sitcom was fading away. The very same year Friends said goodbye, a brand new kind of show arrived that was about to rewrite the entire rulebook for television.
To get why this was such a big deal, just look at this number. Over 52 million people tuned in live to watch the Friends finale. That kind of massive, unified audience, all watching the same thing at the same time, it's almost unthinkable today. And when that show ended, it left this huge void in the TV world.
And into that void stepped a totally new way of telling stories. You see, for decades, most TV was episodic. You could just jump in anytime, you didn't really need to know what happened last week. But a show called Lost came along and popularized a serialized format, where you had to watch every single episode to keep up with the mystery.
And this formula? It was a smash hit. First, Lost became a cultural phenomenon. Then, Prison Break came along and proved it wasn't just a fluke. Pretty soon, even the most prestigious dramas, like The Sopranos, were getting in on it, ending its entire run with that legendary cliffhanger that sent millions of us rushing to internet forums to debate what it all meant.
But just as this new serialized formula was really taking over, the entire industry got hit by a massive disruption. And it was one that would reshape TV in ways that, honestly, nobody saw coming.
It all boiled down to this. As shows started moving online, writers wanted to be paid fairly for it. The studios refused, and that sparked a 100-day strike that basically shut down production on every scripted show. So with their schedules totally empty, networks scrambled for the cheapest, fastest alternative they could find: unscripted reality TV.
The impact was immediate, and it was huge. Those carefully plotted serialized shows like Lost and Heroes took a major hit to their quality and their popularity. And as you can see right here, reality TV, which didn't need writers, just exploded to fill the void. For the studios, it was cheap and easy money, and it has never gone away since.
But in the aftermath of the strike, a new kind of scripted drama also started to bubble up. Shows like Gossip Girl, True Blood, and Glee proved that serialized stories aimed at female audiences could be absolutely massive, world-conquering hits, and that completely changed the kinds of stories that networks were willing to make.
This brings us to what a lot of people call the golden age of TV. This was a time when a few special shows weren't just popular, they were global cultural events. This was the era of prestige TV.
And you simply cannot talk about this era without talking about Walter White. Breaking Bad was the very definition of prestige, a slow-burn character study that built and built over 5 seasons into this explosive, must-see finale.
And the numbers, they just prove it. At its absolute peak, the show is getting over 100 million Google searches a month. It became this huge cultural touchstone, driven almost entirely by word of mouth. But even that level of obsession was about to be completely dwarfed.
Because then there was Game of Thrones. This wasn't just another TV show. It was a phenomenon. For years, it was the one show you could not escape. It dominated conversations everywhere, from the office to the internet.
And this number is just staggering. At its peak in 2017, Game of Thrones hit over 350 million monthly searches. That is the most searched for TV show in the history of Google. And to this day, no other show has even come close to touching that record.
But while Game of Thrones was the undisputed king of cable, a revolution was brewing. Netflix wasn't just a place to watch old shows anymore. It had started making its own. And that one move set the stage for an all-out war for our eyeballs.
So here's how the war began. In 2016, Netflix dropped Stranger Things and proved a streaming service could create a genuine blockbuster hit. Well, the legacy media giants took notice. They started pulling their own content back and launching their very own services, Disney+, Amazon Prime Video, you name it, to fight for subscribers. The streaming wars were officially on.
Now, facing all these new, deep-pocketed competitors, Netflix needed a new playbook. So they pivoted. They started investing heavily in lower-cost, non-English language shows from all around the world. One of their first massive successes was Spain's Money Heist, which proved that a great story could find a global audience no matter what language it was in.
And that strategy, well, it would go on to completely redefine the modern TV landscape, leading us right into the fractured global and totally unpredictable era we live in right now.
And this number right here is the ultimate proof that Netflix's big bet paid off. In 2021, Squid Game, a Korean survival drama, exploded with over 250 million monthly searches. It became the biggest show in the world, something that would have been absolutely unimaginable just a decade earlier.
This brings us to the TV landscape of today. Hits are now truly global, and they can come from absolutely anywhere. Virality on platforms like TikTok can turn a show like Wednesday into an unexpected smash hit overnight. The downside? Well, with so much content fighting for our time, our attention is completely fragmented, and no single show can really hold the cultural spotlight for very long. This environment has paved the way for the continued rise of international content, especially from powerhouse regions like South Korea. Which brings us to this central paradox for all of us as viewers today. On one hand, we have more incredible choices from all over the world than ever before. But on the other hand, all that great content is spread across dozens of expensive, competing services, making it harder and, let's be honest, more frustrating to find and watch everything. And it all leads to this final big question. With everything so fragmented and so expensive, are viewers just turning back to the one method that puts everything in one place? Is this, accidentally, the new golden age of piracy? That's the billion-dollar question looming over the entire future of television.